Welcome to the Agentic AI in SAP webinar. You are in this webinar, everybody is muted. The session is recorded. You can chat with us and ask questions, and we'll answer them at the end of this session. Hello, so I'm Bert Janssens, AI and Innovation Coach.
I'm Jonas, your functional agent for today.
And Nico de Lener, our technical architect, you'll see in a couple of minutes. So today, I will show you what does mean AI and S4 on-premise or in the cloud. We'll show what is required to build your own AI agents on SAP. We'll be showing a demo of what we've built ourselves. Then we'll go behind the scenes, how it was set up, and we'll wrap up and, well, hopefully entice you to contact us. So, first of all, SAP Business AI. So you have an SAP cloud product, and then you have Joule with a lot of specialist agents that you can try out. You also have embedded AI capabilities in your cloud product. Or you're in a situation that you're not in the cloud and that you have an S4 system on-premise, and then you don't have access to Joule and the embedded capabilities. But no worries, there is still a lot that you can do thanks to BTP and the AI Foundation. And we'll be showing also an MCP server how it can help you. So meet Chris, our CIO. He wants to make use of AI. But again, he's on-premise, doesn't have the cloud product, doesn't have Joule, but we'll be showing that it's not a problem. Or you are in the cloud, but you need specialist AI agents to do what your business requires. Again, then you have particular needs, and you might want to use your own AI. You might want to use Copilot instead of Joule in your business context. And again, what you do, no worries. We have you covered with the Flexo MCP server. And it will provide all the context that your agents need. And that's maybe the most important word of today is the context your agent need. So bring your own agents on SAP. So imagine you want to ask a question to your AI about your business. As for example, do you have a Phillips screwdriver in stock? And when you ask ChatGPT or Copilot, it will provide an answer. But it might be an inappropriate answer or might be an hallucination. Why? Because it's missing context. Again, so in order to answer questions like, do we have a Phillips screwdriver, or can we deliver something by a particular date, your system needs context. And that's why you might need an MCP server. And that helps bring the necessary context, the capabilities that the AI needs. It needs access to your SAP system. It needs functional knowledge, how to use the different APIs enabled. And also you want to have it in a secure way using your users' access. So what's an MCP? Think of it, the protocol, as a USB-C for AI that actually allows you to connect the AI you use, whether it's Copilot or ChatGPT or Joule, to particular capabilities, other databases, or your S4 system via APIs, or to a set of documents, etc., etc. So, and it ensures that when the AI asks a question to the MCP server, there's no ambiguous answers. The MCP server will actually always create a structured and a traceable request answer. So our demo today will be introduced by Jonas.
Yes, thank you, Bert. So we have a company, Wrapping Machines Are Us, Inc., and we have built an AI agent that will help us with our day-to-day operations. Or we want to build an AI agent that helps us with our operations. First, we need to understand, what do we do? Well, we buy materials, we produce them into a wrapping machine for pallets, and then we sell them to customers. So Our day-to-day operations consist of sales, procurement, production, and inventory management, where we go from selling customers, replying to their requests, and managing their deliveries, to procuring the components for our production, also planning the production based on their sales requirements and producing the actual item, and also managing our stock so we can have a fast and reliable service. But if I want to respond to the question of a customer, can I deliver this amount of wrapping machines by a certain date? I would have to go through a decision tree basically asking, do I have enough stock, which is an application within my SAP cloud system that I can check if I have enough stock. If I do not have enough stock, then I would have to go check a different app again. Can I produce it? Did I already have production planned? If there's no answer there, then I also have to think, can I produce it? Do I have the materials to produce it? Which is, again, a different application. And if I can't produce it because I don't have the materials, I would have to procure those materials, and I would have to figure out when can I purchase them and when will they arrive. Which means I need to go through many different applications before I can find the answer to a relatively simple question. So to support these daily needs, we combine the functional knowledge of a sales member, of a procurement member, of a production planning member, or of someone who does inventory management to build a tool that knows how to work with them, but it's also powered by your AI. So you get a, we will call it Jonas.mcp. So let's transfer to our demo environment.
Yes, there we go. Here we are. So we'll be showing the demo in Cloud, but again, it doesn't matter, right? With the MCP server. Basically, our AI is connected to the MCP server that is created. That MCP server contains, as Jonas explained, quite a lot of functional knowledge of what you need to do in order to respond to particular requests. So also it has access to particular APIs to our demo system, basically, but also the necessary context to be able to use these APIs in an appropriately. So one of the first questions when I come in the office in the morning, I ask, for example, okay, which finished goods? Sorry. It doesn't want to copy, so I'll type it out. Do we have in stock? And we see here that the AI has gotten a request, and it's gonna look at the MCP server, what it provides. You see here that it's doing API queries, gets responses, and decides what to do next. So
in the meantime, I will also show how it would be if you are a functional person working in the system and you want to check where can I find this data. So I'm just going to look for my stock multiple materials app. And since we want to know all of the finished goods, we will have to put a filter on our system. So we will search by material type, which will be our finished goods, and we will just select all of them. And I want to select my Belgium plant. I can press go. So I get some details, but as you can see, it's still querying. So sometimes it takes a bit of time.
And also important to know with different AIs is that they work faster in the morning than from 12 o'clock America is awake as well, starts working on the AIs, and then sometimes you see the response times dropping a little bit. Again, we have a response. And Jonas, can you verify whether it's correct?
Yes, I can see all of the materials and nothing more, nothing hallucinated, and nothing less. As it says here, 13 finished products. This is an aggregate because it's between different storage locations, but this amounts to 13 different finished materials. All right.
Okay, that was an easy one. So let's take another not so complex one that we try out. And again, let's ask a new question. So reads to customers that are delayed. Again, Jonas, could you show
Yes.
how would you acquire this information?
So I would just search my VL060, which would allow me to fill in some details. I will just list all of the outbound deliveries, and I will add the transportation planned date, which is normally the date that the goods were supposed to move on. So if it wasn't delivered by today, then of course it's delayed. And I only want the deliveries that are actually not completed. So I am going to exclude C, which is all of the completed deliveries. And for good measure, I will also remove the delivery types that are the returns, since those aren't relevant for open deliveries to customers. Voila. There we go. In the meantime, let's see how our agent is doing. There we go. Okay, let's just no, my system is slower. Good. So I think, as you can see, it's found 43 deliveries that are delayed before today. You can see their delivery ID and some simple information about which customer, and also the status in case it was maybe picked or not. If this would want to load, then we can verify that. I'll just reload quickly.
You seem to be experiencing some delays today.
Now it works.
Can happen.
Voila, and not completed. So if we execute this, we see that we have found 44 deliveries and we have found 43 here. So, but if we would verify these results next to each other, we will probably find the reason why this one delivery is not in this list. But again, you can see that the total list of deliveries here is exactly what you would find inside the SAP system.
But again, the AI might have decided to aggregate particular records. Yeah, okay. So the next question we'll ask is, again, a little bit more interesting. So one you might recognize, customer calls and asks customer ABC, and that's a customer in our demo system, asks when is next wrapping machine, and I'm a bit nervous, that's why I don't type very well today, will be delivered. So when will customer ABC's wrapping machine be delivered?
All right.
So again,
so what is it going to do? It's going to find the customer's ID and look for its sales orders and find the wrapping machine product number and combine it, which if you are a functional user, you would also follow a similar decision path. So I will go to my manage sales orders up. And I will look for customer ABC. And I want to look for the product wikkelmachine, and I will use both.
It's important to know that our demo environment has Dutch descriptions, so not in English. That's why Jonas uses wikkelmachine in the search.
So we can see, and I think the agent is already done almost as well.
Yeah, he freezes when you're not, when it's not active, the tab. So
there we go.
Yeah.
It's found. So let's see what it tells us. His next delivery is, it's a delivery, not an order. There we go. That's order 326. And as we can see, that is actually a delivery. But his next sales order would be on the 12th, which isn't a delivery yet. So the system is correct. It gave us the delivery that is in process. But if we would ask it for the open sales order, then it would obviously give us the one that isn't in a delivery yet. Okay. All right.
So, next question is, which wrapping machines do we have in stock? So, customer asks whether we can deliver some more. So,
so we can use an app we already used for this. We can just use the stock multiple material app, and we will just look for our plant. And I think we already know, but if I would look for wikkelmachine, I would be able to find both 292 and 360, our materials of the day. And we could see the breakdown. So we have one piece of material 360, 15 of 292 in unrestricted stock, one piece for project stock, and one is a returns delivery that is blocked currently, that we cannot access just yet. And if we see here what the system results, we should have 17 units of 292 and 1 unit of 360, again showing that the system and the agent give the same result.
Right. Now, let's ask it to give a breakdown of the stock of item 292, so one of our wrapping machines. Give the right.
Yeah, which is basically what I explained already, but it's a good idea to ask the agent. Maybe it can do some analysis on our current status. Exactly. You can see some more info. Now the pieces that are unrestricted, and you also see that it found stock that is at 0 pieces, which is like, reserved for a certain order. So we can also leverage the power of the natural language to give a analysis based on the data that we can pull from the system.
Okay. So the customer asks, can we deliver 35 wrapping machines 292 by February 7. It's so let's see. That's quite a complex one to find out, I guess.
Yes, if we would circle back to the slides, this is basically one of the questions that we've asked. It's already giving answers, so I have to handle quick. We will go to the display product availability app, which is an app that allows us to give some parameters, which means we will enter the product number that we want to check. and we want to see what is the current state of our stock. We can open this up and we will see that we have a shortage of 3 pieces. We see how many pieces we have in stock, how much is going to be produced, and by which day how many quantities will be available. And I think, yeah, he's already done. So our result, he does an ATP check, which is our available to promise, and it shows us that we have -3 units, so we have a shortage and we would need to produce more to fulfill the 35 units on demand. And you can see that there is our current stock breakdown, but also an analysis on the current sales orders that are technically requesting stock, for which we also have to take into consideration. And this is a very long explanation, but it's a very detailed one that would require someone to check with multiple people whether or not they can actually deliver this amount. I've only checked the availability, but we would have to check, can we actually produce now or not?
Okay, so let's find out. Can we produce any extra before February 7?
And to check this gets a bit more complex in our system, because we would have to do a product availability of the components, which means we would have to run an MRP run so that we can actually check if we have the ability to plan the product, and then we would have to do a collective availability check on the components for this product so that we can check if we have sufficient components to produce the missing need. So I can just start an MRP run, but as you can see, if we would manage this material, we can see our current coverage, which will show us how much we are producing, how much is already in a production order, which customers are ordering, and also our planned orders to add more to our stock. Now that the MRP run is done, we would also want to do an availability check. Availability check. Voila. Oh, wrong app. There we go. Which is just a simple job we can run for a certain material. Normally this runs all the time, but I will just do a single run telling me for this product to include the current planned orders. Yes. And as a result, we will see.
That's quite a number of steps you need to take yourself to find that out.
Yeah, I think our agent is already long done with everything. So, but as we can see here in the log, it will tell us that we have a shortage of product 296 by a certain amount of meters to fulfill that planned order, which means we also have a material shortage to fulfill the planned requirements. And as we can see, the agent has checked which materials are in the bill of materials of this wrapping machine. It checked the current stock, and it also checked how much we would want to, how much we would need to produce the missing amount of pieces. And you can see that we have a shortage of material 296 to build a planned order for specifically this item. So indeed, as a response, we can conclude that we cannot produce extra before this date, or at least not fill the 35, because we are missing components to produce the material. And it also gives us some analysis telling us which options we have to enable our additional production, which means we can buy more materials, or we reduce our current production so that we can fill the 35 orders, or put an emergency order in for components.
So, great answer. And then last but not least, let's have the system make a graph. Can you make a graph of the stock evolution of item 292 in the first quarter of this year? Now, this is, it will interact with the MCP server, our Claude here. But what it does with the data, it depends from every time and you ask the question, there will be some difference in how it will be visualized. It will show what's will be created here, and then we'll show what's created yesterday, for example. So again, what is done with that data that is retrieved via the MCP server, that depends a bit on the AI you use, and also it depends from instance to instance how it will exactly respond. But again, we have a very broad prompt here. If we would specify it a bit further or add additional context to the MCP so that it knows how to interpret and work with it, and we could have more control over that as well. But again, let's go out of this one because it's basically almost creating an app now, or a good insight tile. So that takes a bit longer. Let's go back to the. Can come back to this, but let's continue with the.
It might be done. Give it 5 more seconds.
Okay.
It's presenting the file. There we go.
Okay.
Let's see. Oh, perfect.
So here, so that's.
We can see the ATP, our 0 line, so we can see that we are actually running into a big deficit after a certain point.
So, in a short amount of time, a very nice visual report given by the AI, thanks to the MCP server. Let's go back to our presentation now. So that was the end of the demo, but this was, for example, what's created yesterday. It's visually completely different, same prompt with the same data. But again, this is the creative aspect of the AI you use. And
and since we said we showed it only in cloud, but we've also tried it with Copilot on our own Copilot system, and we've also used Joule to build our own agent, and they are executing the same prompt, and they both, you might be able to see it on the video, but actually give the same response with their own creative twist to it sometimes. But it shows that you can bring your own agent, and even for customers who are on cloud, you can use Joule as your baseline and just extend it with the MCP server.
Okay. Then behind the scenes, Nico will explain how it's all set up.
Okay. Thank you, Jonas and Bert, for explaining this and giving us the context to continue with. And we saw that we had some outcomes differently in different days. Of course, you can imagine if you have your own templates, your own specific prompts, then you can always get a more specific answer. So if we would just make a template or a prompt for this and say this is the exact visual we want, and we can always have that same visual. So that's still important, of course, having a good prompt if you want something very specific. But let's look into behind the scenes. And so what did we see? We saw that there was an AI client going to the SAP system to collect information. And in between, what happened then? So to dive in, actually nothing very special from an MCP server perspective. It's not that we are doing our own calls to the LLM system. So a different LLM system, and that you are thinking, okay, where is my data going? So eventually what we are doing, we're retrieving information still via APIs, as we know and love from the BTP system. And then we wrap context around it with MCP and making sure that it's according to the MCP protocol and then AI clients and agents can just leverage it. So in between, actually, this remains something that you know. We provide some information on what to get, and then we get some information, detailed information on the delivery document. And so via the standardized protocol, we are able to provide this to any client. If we dive into more detail, we see that we have clients whichever you want, as long as they support the MCP protocol. And so the MCP protocol allows us to provide the necessary context around our CAP application, our CAP middleware on BTP, and then provide tools, resources, and prompts, which are the main features of MCP protocol for an MCP server. And so within those tools, we can define what they are able to do. And of course, we can also provide some prompt templates to see that the AI client has an idea on what he could do as well. The good thing about using BTP is that we use the out-of-the-box security concepts from within the BTP landscape and from within the CAP architecture to just connect to the system via destination. And we are able to know the user that is logged in via OAuth and then retrieve the information and data from the system role-based. So if you have authorizations in the systems that need to be kept, that's still the case because we know who is asking the question. That's a very important thing to know, and that's out of the box because of BTP and CAP that are in the middle there. So that's from a technical perspective. From a functional perspective, what is in there, that is, let's say, a bundle of expertise. And for the example we were giving, that's a bundle of expertise with some entities like product, stock, availability, and that we are able to then wrap around with some context, some metadata, some information on how to do different steps, so that we then have a bundle of expertise, and then the AI clients know how to use it and what they can retrieve from the system, what steps they need to take. And this is something that can be done for multiple domains and that we can extend. We just need the functional expertise. We need Jonas to tell us this is how I would do it in the system, and then we can make a balance between deterministic approach versus some APIs that the client can use to make their decision. We would have loved to show you in real time. We also included this in Joule via the Joule Studio. However, we had some technical difficulties with, I don't know, EU10 or Joule Studio on it.
Today.
Just before
yeah.
we wanted to dive into the demo with our last check. So we will just show it like this. And you might not see it exactly in detail, but what we did is you have Joule as your orchestration agent. And it's able to do the same custom tool call as we had in the cloud demo that Bert was showing us. And so the same information is being retrieved if we ask something about a delivery. And then when we want to actually make sure that we can produce an additional stock or additional stock for the product, we can ask that question. And what we did is, for the sake of the demo, we just created a skill in Joule Studio, and that skill allows us to make a production order in the system. And so the orchestration agent, Joule, is then able to then know this question can be handled by the custom tools in the MCP. And once we ask create a production order, it knows I have a skill and it can do that. So I will provide the information and then create the actual production order. If we want to dive into Joule and Joule Studio, we need maybe some terminologies. And so we mentioned Joule. It's an orchestration agent. So it has capabilities out of its own, but it's meant as an orchestration agent, making sure that it understands the intent of the request and then is able to delegate to expert agents to handle it with a lot of care and a lot of knowledge. And so we will see how we can use that. And then Joule Studio is the low-code environment for agentic development, let's say. So it's in SAP build, and you can do low-code custom agents and so on. And then we have, of course, the things we can build. So Joule agents, which are expert agents. And the expert agents, they contain all the knowledge, the instructions, the workflow steps that you need to handle certain toolkits, certain skill sets, and that whole bundle of expertise makes up an expert agent that can handle, let's say, something about production order and can create a production order. But take into account that a Joule agent is still probabilistic. This means that you give it the instructions, you give it the context, you give it the toolkits, but it will make it up its own mind based on what is the most logical next step, because LLMs just take the most logical next step. Joule skills, in comparison, is just a wrapper, let's say, around the process automation workflows we know from the build suite, in which we can just create a workflow which is deterministic, rule-based, exactly what we want.
And always the same answer?
Always the same answer. And so if we want a single task to be done in exactly the same way, it's better to have it deterministic and rule-based. And so Joule skill can help with that. And then you can plug in the skill in the agents in Joule and help you get something done. And then we also have an action, which is a wrapper, a technical wrapper, let's say, to be used so that APIs can be plugged in into the skills. And so we will see it in just a bit, how it looks like. And then finally, we also have the MCP protocol, which is, as mentioned, a standardized protocol. And this helps us plug in external tools, custom tools into different agents.
Yeah. And when you have an agent coupled to an MCP, it's gonna basically, the first question will be, hey, what can you do? And the MCP server will return, hey, I have these capabilities. And the agent says, oh, okay, so that's what you can help me with. Yeah.
So now that we know that, how does it look like in Joule? So Joule, as mentioned, is an orchestration agent, and it has capabilities of its own, but it also has support for things, the standard protocols like MCP, as mentioned, but also A2A, which is agent to agent. And so this allows it to understand the intent and then delegate it to the right agent. And so we have SAP providing us with out-of-the-box skills, out-of-the-box expert agents, but you can also build your own custom agents and custom skills, and then Joule will just delegate to whatever is the most relevant. And then within our custom agent, we can then add capabilities, context instructions, but also custom tools with MCP, or just external tools. So imagine you have a Jira MCP available, then you can just plug it in because it's MCP, it's standardized. And then a skill on its own is then maybe an API call, is then maybe a piece of workflow that you go through, or is also talking to another skill to do something very specifically. And so a skill is a building block specifically created by SAP to do a Joule action. So it has capabilities that are useful for building something into Joule. If we then look into the system, and I'm afraid I can show it in real time now due to the issues, but we have some print screens, of course. So here we have the sub-build lobby, which is already known by many of you. And then here we created some projects that are used in Joule. So Joule agent and Joule skill. We've created 2 projects here just to showcase this, but you could also have one agent and within that define a skill and then use it there. Why it's separated here, I will explain in just a bit. If we go into the agent itself, we are then able to do some low-code configuration. Let's say we provide some instructions, we select the model that we want to use, and then here we see that we can plug in MCP, and it's just, we plug it in and it knows the tools. And then it will be able to call it. And then we can also add some specific tools, and as mentioned, we could add the skill here to the agent directly. If it's a very specific agent, that would maybe have a sales order create, that would maybe be interesting here, so then we could add it here.
But you could also add it to the MCP as a capability.
Yeah, perfectly possible.
And then you can couple different agents to that MCP server while it is a skill. You need to make the connection one at a time?
So an agent can have multiple MCPs and multiple agents can be linked to the MCP. So it's just a microservice that talks in the same standardized way so that all agents can talk to it. And then if we use this in the test environment in the Joule Studio, we can perfectly see that if we do the call, and on the left side you will see that we do pretty much the same calls, you will see that it does an MCP server call, providing the input for making an availability check. And so this is something that you can see while testing the agents, and then perfectly see what are the reasoning steps, what is he doing, and when is he calling tools. Because if you want it as deterministic as much as possible, then you want to use a lot of tools, because then you exactly know what is happening. This is the example of the skill itself. So what is a skill? As mentioned, it just looks like a workflow, but it's specifically a workflow process built for Joule steps. You see things like the sending message, so sending update message. This is when you're talking to Joule, then you see some updates happening. That's when you say, okay, you need to provide this information now because we are in this step. And if you are at the end, you have a send message, and then you can have, I think we saw it in our previous slide here. Here. So we saw the card with just an icon saying the production order has been created. This is the send message building block that you can then provide some dynamic information, and then it provides the visual to you. So to continue on that, we also then have in the skill inputs, so skill inputs, and if you put them on required and you ask a question, then Joule knows I need to trigger the skill, then it will see it's required. I don't have the information. I ask for the information now because I need it. And so you don't have to say to Joule that they need to ask this. It will do so out of the box because of the settings you have here. And then finally, we also have an action here that just illustrates an API endpoint, allowing us to create a production order. And this is then used from within the skill if we confirm that we want to create the production order. Then the final step, and this was, I think, interesting to show. If you are in the build environments, you can then deploy your agents, your skills, and then you can deploy it into a certain environment. And within an environment, you have a standalone Joule assistant. And this is when you press launch, a separate launch window, Joule window, where you can then ask questions, and only people within the environment that are members of the environment can use this standalone version. However, when you want to have it in the shared Joule environment, there is a setting that you can then push it to the shared environment of Joule, and then it will be available in the general Joule that is available across the business suite, basically. So that's interesting to know. And here, just a good example, when you ask a question to Joule and you have in the agent the outputs selected that it can build its own output, then Joule will also start to create cards that help you visualize the information that you have, just to make sure that you don't always just read text, but you have some more structured information, some prioritized information, which is interesting. So this to wrap up what we saw. So we saw that Joule as an orchestration agent can just pull or delegate to all the tools it needs based on the instructions that you give, the context that you give, and then is able to finish up with the request based on the best tool available. What does this mean for your environments? So this is just to show you that you don't just that you are not just able to do this when you have Joule. So if you have Joule available, of course, as we saw, we can just build it in, so we can link our MCP into the Joule agent or add different skills to it. This is all possible. But what if you don't have Joule? Then you still have a lot of building blocks that can help you make the Agentic SAP possible. And this is just because SAP Build is available. You can deploy the MCP that we have, and then you can connect to the system, whether it's Cloud ERP for some specific use cases, or you have an ECC system with some, as long as we have APIs, we can retrieve the information. And we could even go further and then use the Business Data Cloud to have information modeled and then retrieve information from there on into our agent as a source. So that's also interesting. And as long as the agent that you have, let's say Copilot, has MCP support, you can just plug in the MCP and you don't need specifically a Joule in your environment to do so. But it's also perfectly possible, as we saw, to combine both and just do what fits best and just make good tools with the technology available and that is best fit.
So whether you are on premise or in the cloud, there is a solution for you.
Yeah.
To start with AI.
Yeah, brings us to how we see this evolve. So what we saw until now, we see that we have a conversational trigger, so we can ask Joule something and it will delegate to a certain custom agent. We also see agent-to-agent orchestration, as we saw our custom agent was being called by Joule. We currently have custom agents, but we are not yet able to plug into the pre-built agents that SAP is providing, to then add on top of that with some maybe small specific things and then customize it a little bit. And we saw a lot of new things and a lot of components, BDC getting a specific place in the architecture, the Joule Studio coming into play, different technologies evolving. And what does that move us forward to in 2026? That is that the architecture itself is getting it's more like a flywheel more and more, because you have a lot of strong components with a specific focus. Let's say BDC has a lot of strong focus on the data and the modeling. And if you would then combine it with your MCP server, for instance, or your agents as a source, then it becomes a lot more powerful because you have a lot more context built in the model.
The better your data, the more your...
more analytical as well. So that's very interesting. And so all those components together are becoming more and more powerful for such use cases with MCP servers with Joule agents. What we also see with Joule is that they will introduce system-triggered agents, so that we don't need to start it in Joule. So that a system, let's say...
I'm very excited about that one. A mail coming in, for example, with a question that we've just seen and then getting processed.
Yeah, so
something like...
So a cloud event can happen. It can be a mail, but it can also be a system event. Let's say a document gets created and then you start a flow and then there is intelligence needed. Then you can start an agentic flow. But you also have A2A integration. So we saw orchestration, but the integration is that you can also have external agent-to-agent, so that some external agent can maybe even connect to Joule via the agent-to-agent protocol. And what we then also see is the agent extensibility coming into play, so that we have the pre-built agents of SAP and then maybe add that specific flavor that we need, so that we don't need to make it custom all over, but we can just extend it with exactly what we need. And then finally, we also hope to bring new and updated expert cycles bundles to the picture, so that we can, like we showcased now with the order fulfillment, that we can just bring such experience as Jonas would to the picture and within the MCP that can be plugged into any agent, so as a reusable component.
Right, so let's wrap up. What have we seen today? That if you want to create an agent that is capable of answering questions or providing information about data in your system, well, you need a lot of context. You need to provide that context that can be done via an MCP server that you can connect to any AI you want to bring to the table. And also, if you want to have your own specific functional person or person in your organization and have that a part of that knowledge as an assistant modeled, we can do that for you, and we have this offering. So basically, so that the necessary context for your business can be contained in an MCP that is linked to the agents that you want to use. So you can contact us for that, but also for much more. So you heard about the Joule skills that can be built. If you want to get help with that, we're there. Also, if you want to infuse processes or applications with Gen AI capabilities, we're there for you. We have, but that's maybe for another session to showcase those. And if you want to work out an AI or innovation roadmap, we have an AI exploration workshop for you to define those use cases that will bring the most business value and that are feasible so that you know what to focus on and what will bring the most value versus investment. So
Perfect.
that's it. So over to you. Do you have any questions?
Can the AI agent also work with custom applications? Okay, so the AI agent is a bit vague, so I'm imagining that you are saying the AI agent that we have in Joule, let's say. So currently, as mentioned, we have the conversational part, but coming in the coming months, we will be able to also have a system trigger. So then it would be possible to also trigger like an agentic flow from there on. And so in custom applications, you could plug it in. But of course, you also have other tools in the AI foundation that can help you bring some Gen AI, as mentioned, Gen AI tools or Gen AI cases into the picture with custom applications. So how much of preparation did you have to do to ask these kind of questions? Could you, with the same effort, ask questions on SAP tables that were not prepared? So the SAP tables, yeah, of course, we need to be able to access it currently. So as mentioned, we currently have been using the OData services. And so the OData services need to talk to the SAP data in the SAP tables that you are mentioning. As long as the APIs are there, we can, of course, ask questions about it. Of course, if we want some more specifics on that, or we want to go more advanced, you could maybe think of a setup where the data is getting modeled in like a BDC component, and then from there on can be asked on via MCP server or something like that. Or you could maybe even bring some data into the HANA Cloud and then use the knowledge graph engine that is available there to just build your own knowledge graph on a certain part of tables. Or you, if it's already in the knowledge graph of SAP itself, then Joule can maybe already delegate from there. How is MCP server connected to SAP ECC? So yeah, as mentioned, it's connected via APIs. And so in BTP, you have a concept called destinations. And destinations are just the standard way for a BTP environment to connect to the SAP system. It goes via the cloud connector so that you have a secure tunnel in between the systems. And so via that way, we are able to retrieve the information, then expose it as an endpoint, and then from there on, you build the context in whatever agent that you are using that is linked to the MCP server. Did you need to train the AI for each question to follow the right steps? That's maybe a good question. So,
the question about can the product be provided by a certain date, you saw all the necessary steps that it might need to take. Those were explained to the those were defined. How to say, that context was put into the MCP.
Yeah, so we're talking with the functional experts so that we know how they are doing it in the system, and then based on that we look how we can put that into a more deterministic way, and then also provide information and context about it to the system so that we both have maybe ways to have it optimized so that you don't do API calls for every single entity or entry, but that you maybe have already some combined information, and then also provide some step information to the client so that it already knows a bit more about what steps to take.
So because you could say, okay, here are the APIs with just an explanation what they do, and then the AI might, and when you ask it a question, might trying out all these APIs, getting responses. Oh, this is not getting what I want. I'll do it. I'll try this and I'll try that, and it often or most often gets to a very desirable result. But again, that's not the way you want to do it. You want to provide that context in case of questions like that return, because you want to limit the amount of tokens as well that is needed by the AI, because that has an influence on the cost as well. Yeah.
And that's a good point, because we didn't mention it yet, but it's very important to have good context and good steps, because otherwise, if it has a lot of round trips, you are spending a lot of requests and a lot of tokens, and we didn't go into details on how the licensing works for, let's say, Joule Studio and agents in that Joule Studio, because based on the steps it takes, you have a cost to it, or if you have like let's say another agent and it's based on requests, you want as little requests as possible so that your context is optimized, but also the round trips are limited. And you need to balance this with deterministic and probabilistic, so having an entity that provides some information so that if a user is doing natural language processing and asking maybe something that you didn't expect, that the AI agent is still able to get some information to handle that in a good way. But otherwise you want, for specific cases, a very or a more deterministic way to handle those. Is there an SAP license required for the end user that asks the question to the AI agent, or does it only require a technical user to make the connection? So in principle, let's say that you're talking about Joule agents and Joule Studio. So in principle, you can make the connection via a technical user, but it's as powerful as mentioned to just have it connect via OAuth so that it knows which user it is, and so that you can then leverage the authorizations in the backend so that if they ask a question about a certain plant and they don't have authorization of data in that plant, that they don't get data that they are not able to see in the system as well. And license is in Joule agents is based on the requests that you do, the steps that the agent is taking. And so for each, and you have different, you have variations, you have base, standard, and advanced questions, steps, sorry. Based on that, SAP is asking X amount of AI credits to handle it. If we then look at the MCP server, if you don't have Joule and you connect the MCP server to whatever AI client that you have, let's say Copilot, the MCP server is just running in a runtime environment on BTP. So this is just a fixed runtime cost that you have, that's it. And then on the client side, you have your own contract that handles the amount of calls that you can do, but also the security behind the data. That's also something that is handled by, let's say, the Copilot licensing that you have and the governance around it. So that's not an additional license on our part. Okay, so I think we're calling it here.
Yeah.
And so thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
And I hope that we will hear something from you and that we might hear some interesting use cases that we can work on together, or enable you with some questions on SAP or Agentic
Absolutely.
flows.
All right. Goodbye.
Bye.